Hello again, and welcome to this first lesson in section 4. Section 4 is about planning for growth. And in this lesson, we're going to cover off the principle of funnels. Some people call them pipelines, but you'll see why I tend to refer to them as funnels. So let's crack on. So what we're going to cover today, the funnels principle, also known as pipelines, and how to quantify and grow them. Now, funnels are you should think of them as the building blocks required to significantly increase your sales and marketing performance consistently in the long term. And they'll also allow you to create accurate marketing cost and sales generated forecasts. So you have good, accurate forecasts of what your sales are going to be in the future, even if you're planning for some rapid growth. And with all of that, that will help you sleep at night, because if you're a small business person or you're doing a startup, you will know that you have those long nights where you're not entirely sure that your business is going to go the way that you want to. But by understanding the principles of funnels, that will help help you understand how your future is going to plan out. So what essentially is the funnels principle? Well, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to imagine that your potential customers are working their way through a funnel with multiple filters when they're on the journey. So we've done quite a lot of work so far on customer journeys. So what, as I say, I'd like you to imagine now is that journey, as they go through, they're actually going through a funnel with a series of filters. And those filters are actually the lines between each of the moment of truth phases, or the conversion lines. So in this particular diagram, those conversion lines are shown in the blue dotted lines going horizontally across the page. So what we're talking about here is a conversion line is that when a potential customer has become aware of us, for example, and then starts doing some research on us. So they've come out of the stimulus and awareness phase, and they're now in that zero moment of truth phase. So consider that line of conversion as a filter, and you'll see that. So we might have a lot of people who are aware of us or are stimulated to take action, but we lose a lot coming into the zero moment of truth. So a lot of people have been aware of us, but not everybody gets into the research phase. Same again with those who've got into the research phase, those who get into that first moment of truth. Again, we lose a lot more there as well, for whatever reason. Maybe that's just not the right time for them, or whatever it may be. But there is that other conversion line between the zero moment of truth and that first moment of truth. The same happens again between the first moment of truth and the second moment of truth. And you can see the principle going here. Between each one of these moments of truth or phases in the customer journey, we're losing a certain percentage as we go through. Now, your business won't have just one funnel. It will have multiple funnels. Particularly hopefully you'll have multiple customer journeys and multiple customer personas and multiple customer journeys, and each one of those customer journeys will be using different media, etc. So you start building up a series of funnels, all acting in harmony and together. And those funnels might be slightly different, but they'll always have those 5 phases in them: stimulus and awareness, zero moment of truth, etc. And a couple of those key points in that is that you always want to make sure that the first moment of truth on each of them is the same if possible. Okay, so that first moment of truth might be a sale, or it might be when they download a white paper of yours, or whatever it may be. So that you can compare further on down, you can compare like with like. Try and make that first moment of truth, or in fact, in each of your macro funnels, as it were, that the conversion points are the same trigger in each of the those funnels. And of course, you can then add more and more funnels. So previously we just saw that we had Debs, Hardeep and Rebecca, so that might fall into your Facebook campaigns. So I have a Facebook campaign for Debs, I have a Facebook campaign for Hardeep, and I have a Facebook campaign for Rebecca. The same for LinkedIn, the same for email, the same for snail mail. Now you might actually have in that previous page rather than, let's just go back and do that. So in here, rather than having Debs, Prior, Hardeep and Rebecca, you might have had that as my Facebook funnel, my LinkedIn funnel and my snail mail funnel. And then of course, then that would have been that you would have had, rather these underlined titles, rather than being Facebook, LinkedIn and email, they would have been Debs and Hardeep and Rebecca. With each one of those, then on the very left hand side in the Debs phase would be Debs's Facebook campaign, Debs's LinkedIn campaign, and Debs's email campaign, or whatever it may be. So you slice and dice and create your funnels whichever way suits your particular business. Okay, so now that we've got the principle of funnels, let's see how we can quantify and grow them. So good old Excel, what we've done here is we have taken an Excel sheet and we've listed out our stimulus and awareness and our 5 phases. And then we have added quantities for each one. Okay, so in this particular one, this might be Debs's email campaign, and we have 70,000 emails on in our list for that we are addressing to, or we are aiming at the customer persona of Debs. And you can see that, in fact, actually in that stimulus awareness phase, because we've got 70,000 emails, that's the people who we've made aware of us, that in fact we get a 0.5% conversion rate. Of those 70,000 emails that we sent, only 350 clicked through, or whatever that 0 moment of truth is is going to be. Of that 350 that got into the 0 moment of truth, when we get into that first moment of truth, only a third of them who hit the 0 moment of truth then went to that next stage of investigating the first moment of truth. And of them, only 5% made it into the second moment of truth, i.e. maybe in this case, only 5% of them actually made a purchase and got into that second moment of truth where they're long-term customers. And of that 5%, i.e. 6 people, a third of them we persuaded to say something nice about us in the ultimate moment of truth. So for example, so what we can now almost immediately ascertain is that of our 70,000 emails, we can be reasonably confident that we're going to make 6 sales. 6 people are going to make it into that second moment of truth. Now, that's a good estimate to start off with, but as you do each one over time, you can then start adding real figures into here and understanding, okay, so if I do 70,000 emails a week or a month, then I can be reasonably confident, as long as the quality of the data is good, and we don't change too much, and we don't change anything in the landing pages and all that sort of stuff all the way through, that my baseline number is that I'm going to make 6 sales. And we refer to these numbers as the magic 9. So you have 5 quantities for each one of the phases you can produce a quantity for. And then because you have 5 quantities and they're in a linear relationship, you then have 4 conversion rates between each one, giving you a magic 9 number, or magic 9 numbers. Now this becomes really quite important going forward. Not in this lesson. When we get into the next lesson, you'll see why they do become quite important. So if I want to significantly plan for growth at that stage, probably if I was to ask you what's the quickest way to do that, you'd probably say, okay, the quickest way to do that is to, if I want to increase my sales from 6 in that second moment of truth to 9 in that second moment of truth, then in fact, actually, as long as everything else stays the same, if I increase my emails on my list or my stimulus awareness from 70,000 to 105,000, then as long as everything stays the same all the way through, then actually what you get is an increase. You've increased the quantity at the top, so you increase the quantity by 50% at the bottom. So when you have proved a model and it works, if you want to start short-term growth, the quickest way is just spend more money on the stimulus and awareness phase. But what happens if you box clever? What happens if we increase our conversion rates or the performance of our conversion rates by 15% at each level? Okay, so I just want you to look to watch these two numbers on in that first moment of truth and that second moment of truth and the ultimate moment of truth. If I increase the conversion rates all the way through by 15%, watch what happens. Note at the top in the stimulus and awareness phase that the quantity in those stimulus and awareness phases is still exactly the same. It's still at 70,000. But the conversion rate from the stimulus and awareness to the zero moment of truth has increased from 5% to 5.75%, or 0.00575. As a consequence, those in our zero moment of truth has risen from 350 to 402. Same with first moment of truth. That 15% increase through those two conversion rates is now compounding. So rather than in the first moment of truth having 117, we actually have 154, which means that in our second moment of truth, our sales have gone from 6 to 9. And that from there on, our ultimate moment of truth, they've gone from 2 to 3. But remember, okay, that's the same as it was in the previous one, but we're only using we only have a reach or an email list of 70,000. So our costs at the top are the same as in the previous one, but we've managed to increase our sales by 50% at little or no extra cost. So a 15% improvement in conversion rates equals 50% improvement in sales and ultimate moment of truth. Now bear in mind, you might have lots of micro conversions in the zero moment of truth, for example, or in that first moment of truth. So the principle holds up all the way through. The more conversion points you have, not that you want to have a lot of them, because that gives people the opportunity to drop out. But of those conversion points that you have, if you can get a micro improvement in a micro conversion point, it actually has a compound effect all the way through the customer journey or the funnel. And the way to do that, well, we'll do a lot more on that on how to achieve that in the next lesson. But essentially what you need to do is to learn to fail. You learn to fail fast, forward, and cheap. Okay, so the way you increase each of those conversion points, as I say, we'll cover in a lot more detail in the next lesson, but it's all about split testing, etc. So you've got to test, and test again. Now, when you get into that, and we'll get into this again in the next lesson, but be aware that ideally you want to use a specialist in each discipline, even on a very small scale, because for you to get the best benefit and the most improvements out of, for example, Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram, etc., and you haven't used those platforms before, then what you want to do is hook up with somebody who knows the technicalities of that particular platform and how you can use them to achieve this growth. But as long as you understand the principle of what you want to happen, then you can brief them properly. The other thing about boxing clever here is learn how to fatten the funnel first. Okay, so you want to increase your conversion rates, learn how to increase your conversion rates in each level before putting money in the top. Because otherwise for you to learn the lessons of those conversion rates, you don't need quantity. You need data on the conversion rate. So you only need to have enough people in that funnel when you're testing to prove the hypotheses of why these or how you can improve those conversion rates. Once you are confident that your funnel is performing well, then spend money in it. So, and particularly in social media and social media advertising, actually in digital marketing, Google and social media are the quickest way to throw money away. when you haven't worked out your funnels and your conversion rates properly in each one. So do it cheap, and you can micro spend in digital marketing in particular until you have those conversions rates set up, and then once you understand the whole funnel, then put your money in, and then you'll get your best bang for your buck. So once you've worked it out on one funnel, then simply wash and repeat consistently across all the funnels in your pipeline or in your business. So it's now what we wanted to get from this was from this entire lesson is the theory of funnels and how making micro conversion improvements in your funnels will significantly grow the business or improve the business performance. So your task after this lesson is to, here we go, you've heard it before, create your first funnel. So what you need to do is you need to choose one of your customer personas and one media type that you identified on your marketing framework. Then list the actions in that customer journey in Excel. Identify those conversion points, and then for the purposes of this exercise, just add some guesstimate numbers. Now, because what we want to do is just play with the funnels and understand how the funnels, and so you can see how those numbers improve. You may just take some numbers that you've already done in one of your media plans. And there are examples of funnels in the asset section of this lesson. Again, share your work by creating posts in the course newsfeed, and we'll give you some feedback back, and your peers, and don't be afraid to give other people feedback on what they're finding as well. And in that way, we can all learn to grow together. So that was the introduction to funnels and the principle of funnels. I hope you found it useful. It is kind of core to what we're going to do or what we're doing for going forward. But I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson, lesson 2 in section 4, where we are going to start building funnels and their KPIs. I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.